Again, everyone, and welcome back to the KSR YouTube channel. Today, it's me and Mullet, and we got to get this Turbo 400 installed to get it ready for the PRI show that is next week. For those of you that don't know, PRI show is kind of where a lot of the racing companies all come together, display their new stuff. You can meet a lot of the faces. You can meet a lot of the people that you talk to on the phone. Like for us, when we're dealing with, different companies, say like Holly or any of the other big giant companies that we deal with, you talk to people on the phone for months. Now you might get to meet them in person, maybe go have dinner with them, something like that. Talk about business stuff at the trade show, but it's a real good time. But Mullet is going to be on display at the PRI trade show, as well as Ruby, which I think there's something new and exciting happening with Ruby. Maybe I shouldn't say too much about that, but heard some rumors. Can confirm they're kind of cool. But anyways, both Ruby and Mullet headed to PRI next week. But right now, Mullet's got no transmission. I mean, it's got a mock-up Turbo 400 in it, but we got to put this beautiful piece of equipment in there. So right now, that's what we're gonna do. All right, well, while you're here, please click the subscribe button, give us a like, give us a comment, and click the little black bell icon so it keeps you notified whenever we release a new video. And of course, we appreciate you coming back and watching us. We are, I think, right at 250,000 subs. I'm not sure if it'll happen before this video comes out, but so as it sits right now, we're 50 subs shy of 250,000 subscribers. Even just saying that, it just blows my mind. I mean, it's just awesome. You guys are awesome. Appreciate you following along. And let's go ahead and jump into Mullet, see if we can get some work done on this thing. So along with the transmission install, we've got to do a few other things to the car to try and make it better. Some of you saw on the World Cup video, seems like we're having some problems with, now that we've switched to the alcohol combination, it's making more crankcase pressure. I haven't done a ton of alcohol engines, I'll fully admit that, and the ones I have done have been 1/8 mile cars, and on an 1/8 mile car you can kind of get away with a little bit more stuff than you can get away with on a 1/4 mile car. So if you build a little bit of crankcase pressure by the 1/8 mile, well, by the time you go from the 1/8 mile to the 1/4 mile, car's really making a bunch of power, making a lot of, it's pushing some blow by around past the piston. As you might imagine, that extra 3 seconds, yeah, 3 seconds, that extra 3 seconds from the 1/8 to the 1/4, that's when a lot of bad stuff can happen. And we weren't having really a whole lot of engine crankcase pressure problems. So if you look on here, we've got this little hose right here. Right there. That comes off, plumbs over to a map sensor that is right there. And typically, what you want to have in your engine is no pressure. So the pressure inside the engine right now is the same as the air pressure outside the engine, which I guess that makes sense. But I install these sensors because if you hurt a piston, you can see very quickly that there's a huge, very quick spike in the crankcase pressure. It's just good data to have. Typically by the time when you have EGTs on the car also, you can also see a correlation in temperature and then a verification with the crankcase pressure. So just lots of data, not data that you want to see, but if you ever do have that failure, it helps you diagnose it quicker, move on to then fixing it. But for us, back when the car was on the E90 racing fuel, didn't really have any kind of problems with crankcase pressure. I mean, it would maybe make 0.5 PSI, maybe 1 PSI in the crankcase. All right, so what I forget to mention here is that with the alcohol combination, we've noticed as much as 9.5 PSI in the crankcase. And with the switch to alcohol, we noticed that with the old engine, Went ahead and still ran it on the quarter-mile pass, and looking back on it, I think that could have been a contributing factor to the engine hurting itself with when it nipped the head gasket and bent the rod on the 724 run. So kind of my theory behind that is you've got crankcase pressure underneath the piston, and it can unsettle the rings. And when it does that, it can allow oil to get into the cylinder, and oil in your cylinder effectively lowers your octane rating of your fuel. So if you're on the edge with timing and all of a sudden you lower the octane rating by a bunch, well, detonation happens, knocks head gaskets out, bends connecting rods, lots of bad things can happen. So what we're gonna do with that, I kind of got to looking at things now that, now that we're looking for a problem, and these valve covers are only 12 AN on the inlet side here. So what I'm gonna do is first we're gonna go to 24, and we're gonna add a second line on the driver's side valve cover, run it all the way to the back of the car to the tank. And then on the passenger side, we're gonna just take this hose and hook it up right to the valve cover. So I'll remake both of these. Actually, I probably won't even remake them. I'm just gonna make new ones to where I weld a piece of pipe right to the valve cover, and then I'll put a 20 AN bung right on the valve cover here so that there won't be this restriction that's in this little fitting right here. So kind of just chasing every little thing that I can chase right now to try and make the combination of parts better. From kind of what I've been seeing, the 16 AN, dual 16 AN should be plenty, but if we can add an extra line to the back and completely eliminate that pressure, I would really, really like to see that. All right, so along with that, you guys know we've got to cut up the floor a little bit to fit the transmission. So right now in the car, the transmission tunnel is touching right here on this corner of the transmission. And that is without having this spacer in there. So if we're touching here, well, now we're going to be touching there, which means we need to make room right here, but also this stuff right here is going to be in the way. I don't really want to redo this stuff. I could probably re-engineer things and put them at different angles, but everything's made to fit perfectly here. And I'd rather leave it exactly like they send it to us, so that if there is any issues, maybe if we were to add a 90, it could affect the flow volume. And if they've got data with how this transmission works like this, I don't want to change it. I'm already going to be cutting the floor, so might as well cut the floor, make enough room for all that stuff. Hopefully it doesn't interfere with the seat or anything like that. But that's kind of where we're at. But let us go ahead and get started on this thing. See if we can make this fit into that. Let's go. All right, well, it's time for the moment of truth. So you guys might have seen we ran into a little issue with trying to get the bolts through. So regular small block, big block Chevrolets are 3/8 bolts, but an LS is 10 millimeter. So I had to drill that out on my little bench press drill over there. And I did loosen and take this bracket off because I think by just remaking the bracket to mount this piece right here in only about 1/4 inch, I think it's going to clear the transmission tunnel now. So about to stab this thing in, see if it fits. I do have to get some more bolts because this part of the bell housing is even thicker, but I have bolts that'll handle here, and 3 will be enough just for mocking it up here. We're not racing down the road tomorrow, which we're probably not cranking tomorrow anyway, but we're gonna try. Anyways, let's see if this thing will fit. Looks like I need to widen my cutout here in the back even more. I don't know why silver markers hardly ever leave a mark. I'm gonna see if I can wiggle it up in there. And then I can see just exactly how much left I've got to cut. Well, I gotta come back even further there too. Whew, that is close. All right, well, doesn't fit. It's close. But you can see I had to, like, I got it up in there with some wiggling, but we don't want to have to do that, and especially trying to rush and have all these sharp edges. So we're gonna take another cut, widen that out a little bit there. Still gonna try and avoid cutting over here because that definitely saves me a lot of time. And it's looking like it will fit. Maybe you can see up in there. Yeah, I'm just gonna have to make a bracket to tuck that holds this solenoid right up against the case. But let's pull this back out. Double check that the converter's in the transmission all the way, because I mean the transmission is tilted right now, but I'm seeing, you know, finger width gap up here, good 5/8 of an inch, 3/4 of an inch, and then down here I've only got fingertip. I do know that it's tilted a little bit, so that's going to affect the fitment, but got some more work to do. So let's do another time lapse, do a little more chopping. So my goal is to get that up in there tonight where it's holding itself. And then tomorrow I'll come in and fab a transmission cross member. Drive shaft's already here, so that should just slide right in. And then we've got to get down to wiring. Hopefully the transmission cooler lines hook right back up. I think they will. Nice thing about having flexible AN transmission lines can kind of just tweak them until they line up where you need them to line up. Let's get back to it. See if we can test fit it and make some more cutting. All right, well, looky here. It fits. We just have a giant Flintstone size hole in the floor. And this may look a little big right now, but you know, the transmission is all the way up and has to go around the flex plate. So I wanted to give us a little bit of room to make sure that that would clear, and I may even bring that up a little bit higher just because of how close. Let's see if I can get the camera up in there. How close this is to the floor there. So I've either got to come out here with a hard edge and then come down and tie back into that with a piece. Probably mess with that more tomorrow, but for now, it's at least in there. So we're going to use this rear cross member here that used to go under the overdrive. We use that for catching the transmission mount here. And beyond that, just got to patch the floor there, do some wiring. You can see we actually have a bit of clearance in there. Oh, you can't really see that much, can you? Yeah, I can't either. But there is a gap between the solenoid and the wall here, maybe 1/4 inch, something like that. So I'll make a new bracket for that when I take the transmission down. Maybe I don't need to take the transmission down. Yeah, I'll probably still take the transmission down. But another thing I want to show you guys. So you saw in the time lapse, I took some pads off right here, and I did some measuring from the face here to the face of the converter, and then from the face on the mid plate to the back side of the flex plate. Right on the front of this converter, there's a spec that says 1/8 of an inch to 3/16 of an inch of pull out. And what they are meaning with that, and this is common for all GM transmissions as far as I know, you basically want to bottom the torque converter out in the pump all the way into the transmission here, and then it should pull back forward 1/8 to 3/16 of an inch. So the easy way to check that, I got an 1/8 inch drill bit here, and then I got a 3/16 drill bit. So 1/8 should slide in. Ooh, it doesn't slide in. Well, that's a little bit of a problem. So either I'm not all the way in the pump. Ooh, yeah, that's close. So obviously have a little bit of a problem there. And that's gonna warrant a call to Mark Mickey in the morning to see what we've got going on there. Because what can happen if there's not enough room there, as the converter is doing its thing and making lots of pressure, and you know, you just need room for everything to grow and expand in there. And if there's not, you risk wrecking the front pump in the transmission, wrecking the thrust bearing in the engine. Well, obviously we don't want any of that to happen. So, ooh, I got a weird light on my face. So we're gonna try and see what's going on with that. Hopefully I don't have to chuck that really expensive torque converter in my lathe and machine some off of it. I'm hoping that maybe the converter is not quite all the way in the transmission, but can't really find that out 100% until drop it back down again. Now you saw me kind of wiggle it. I really thought it was in all the way, and maybe it is in all the way, and this flex plate is a little different than what they spec the converter for. So it's just a spacing issue. Let's see what I can, we'll see what I can figure out with working that out. But in the meantime, I think that's gonna wrap up this video. So we'll probably bring you one, maybe two more videos on this car for the Turbo 400 install and upgrade and the breather line fix. And we also have one new thing that just showed up today. So we'll also be installing those, and hopefully they go right on without any kind of other problems. But that's gonna do it for this video. If you need some KSR merch, winwithksr.com. As always, we appreciate the support from you guys. It's been nothing short of fantastic and really mind-blowing for me to have all you guys tagging along with us and all the great comments, and you know, just it's got a real good feel to it. So thanks again for watching and subscribing. See you guys next time.